10 Powerful Affirmations for English Confidence. Segment 1 Why English Confidence is Built in the Mind Before the Mouth. Before you hear another grammar rule, before you learn another vocabulary list, before you download another English app, you need to hear this truth clearly. Your biggest problem with English is not language, it is confidence. And confidence is not something you're born with. It is something you practice mentally every single day, often without realizing it. Right now, as you listen to this, there are millions of English learners around the world who understand English very well. They can read articles, they can watch movies, they can follow conversations, but when it is time to speak, their mind freezes, their heart beats faster, their throat tightens, their thoughts disappear, and suddenly all that English they know feels unreachable. Why does this happen? Because speaking English is not just a language task. It is an emotional task. Every time you speak, your brain asks one question first. Is it safe? Safe to sound wrong, safe to be imperfect, safe to be judged, safe to be misunderstood. If the brain decides it is not safe, it shuts everything down. This is why confidence matters more than vocabulary. This is why affirmations matter more than pronunciation drills. Because your brain must feel safe before it allows fluency. Most English learners think confidence comes after fluency. They tell themselves, when my grammar improves, I'll feel confident. When my accent improves, I'll feel confident. When I stop making mistakes, I'll feel confident. That day never comes because confidence does not wait for perfection. Confidence grows through permission. Permission to speak badly. Permission to sound awkward, permission to pause, permission to continue anyway. Right now, you are constantly talking to yourself about English. You may not notice it, but the voice is always there. My English is not good. I need to practice more before I speak. They will notice my mistakes. I don't want to embarrass myself. Those are affirmations. They are not spoken out loud, but they are repeated daily, and repetition creates belief. Your brain does not care whether a belief is helpful or harmful. It only cares whether it is familiar. So if you repeat fear-based thoughts long enough, your brain believes them. And once the brain believes them, it protects you by keeping you silent. Silence feels safe. Speaking feels risky. This is why people stay stuck for years. Not because they are lazy, not because they are stupid, not because they lack opportunity, but because their internal dialogue is working against them. Now here is the shift that changes everything. Confidence is not loudness. Confidence is not dominance. Confidence is not sounding like a native speaker. Confidence is calm permission. It is the quiet belief that says, I can try, I can continue, I can recover, I can be understood. That belief does not appear suddenly. It is trained. This is where affirmations come in. Affirmations are not magic words, they are mental rehearsals. Just like athletes rehearse movements before competition, you rehearse confidence before speaking. When you repeat an affirmation consistently, your brain starts to treat it as normal, and what feels normal stops triggering fear. This is why affirmations work when they are used correctly, not shouted, not forced, but repeated with calm intention. Over time, your nervous system adapts, your breathing slows, your thinking clears, your sentences flow more naturally. Not because your English suddenly improved, but because your fear reduced. Fear blocks fluency more than lack of skill ever could. Think about children again. Children speak without confidence because they do not judge themselves. They don't ask, is this sentence perfect? They ask, can I express this idea? That is real fluency. Somewhere along the way, adult learners replace curiosity with judgment, exploration with caution, expression with fear. Affirmations reverse that damage. They do not lie to you. They remind you of what is already true but forgotten. In this series, you will learn 10 powerful affirmations for English confidence. But these affirmations are not meant to be memorized. They are meant to be felt. Each one targets a specific fear. Fear of mistakes, fear of judgment, fear of sounding stupid, fear of being exposed, and each one slowly retrains your brain to respond differently. Here is something most people never tell English learners. You do not need confidence to speak English. You need to speak English to build confidence. Confidence is not a prerequisite, it is a consequence. Waiting to feel confident before speaking is like waiting to feel strong before exercising. It does not work that way. You speak first, you build confidence second. Affirmations help because they lower the emotional barrier to starting. They make trying feel safe. And once you start, progress becomes inevitable. This is why highly confident speakers often have imperfect grammar, and highly knowledgeable learners often remain silent. Knowledge without confidence stays locked. Confidence unlocks ability. So as we begin this journey, understand this clearly. You are not broken. You are not behind. You're not bad at English. You're simply overjudging yourself, and judgment kills fluency. In the next segments, you will learn affirmations that directly attack that judgment, not with force, but with consistency. Speak them daily, speak them before practice, speak them when fear appears. You're not trying to become someone else. You are reclaiming your natural ability to communicate. And once your mind changes, your English will follow. Segment 2, Affirmations that destroy fear of mistakes and self-judgment. If English fear had a single root, it would not be grammar, it would not be vocabulary, it would not even be pronunciation, it would be fear of mistakes. Most English learners are not afraid of speaking. They are afraid of what happens after they speak. The look on someone's face, the pause, the correction, the laugh that may or may not come. So before a single word leaves the mouth, the brain runs a danger scan. What if I say it wrong? What if I sound foolish? What if they judge me? That scan happens in milliseconds, and once fear is detected, fluency disappears. This is why affirmations in this segment matter so deeply. They are not motivational quotes. They are fear disruptors. They interrupt the automatic self-judgment that shuts you down. Let's begin with the first affirmation. I am allowed to speak imperfect English. This sentence looks simple, but psychologically it is powerful. Most learners do not consciously deny themselves permission. They never say, I am not allowed to speak. But unconsciously, that belief is there. It shows up as hesitation. It shows up as silence. It shows up as waiting for the right moment. Permission has been linked to performance for too long. You were taught that correct answers are rewarded, wrong answers are punished, mistakes equal failure. That conditioning does not disappear when you start learning English. It follows you. So when you try to speak English, your brain believes, if I am not correct, I should not speak. This affirmation breaks that rule. I am allowed. Not because I am fluent, not because I am confident, not because I sound native. I'm allowed because communication is human. When you repeat this affirmation daily, something subtle happens. You stop holding your breath before speaking. You stop mentally rehearsing every sentence. You allow words to come out incomplete. That allowance is not weakness, it is courage. Fluent speakers are not fearless, they are permission-based. They speak even when unsure. Now let's move to the second affirmation. Mistakes mean progress, not failure. This is where most learners struggle, because intellectually you may agree with this, but emotionally your body does not. Your body remembers past embarrassment. Your body remembers correction. Your body remembers shame. So when you make a mistake, your nervous system reacts as if danger occurred. Your face heats up. Your heart rate increases. You want to stop speaking. This is not a language problem. This is a trauma response. Affirmations work here because they slowly retrain the emotional meaning of mistakes. A mistake is not a threat, it is evidence of engagement. You cannot make mistakes in silence. Mistakes only happen when you are trying. Every fluent speaker you admire has made thousands of mistakes, you just never saw them. Fluency hides history. When you say this affirmation consistently, you start reacting differently. Instead of panic, there is curiosity. Instead of shutdown, there is continuation. And continuation is everything. Fluency is not about perfect sentences. It is about staying in the conversation. Now comes the third affirmation of this segment. I do not need perfect English to be understood. This affirmation targets overthinking. Many learners believe understanding requires precision, but communication is flexible. People understand tone, context, facial expressions, intent. Grammar is only one piece of the puzzle. When you believe you must be perfect to be understood, you slow down too much, you translate in your head, you lose flow. This affirmation reminds your brain that clarity beats correctness. When you trust that you can be understood, you simplify naturally. You choose easier words. You rephrase when needed. That flexibility is fluency. The fourth affirmation is closely connected. I can continue speaking even when I make mistakes. This is one of the most powerful confidence builders. Most learners stop after a mistake. They apologize, they restart, they abandon the sentence. That trains the brain to associate mistakes with stopping. This affirmation trains the opposite. It teaches your brain, mistakes do not end communication. You keep going. You finish your thought. You stay present. When you repeat this affirmation, you stop collapsing after errors. You stay upright mentally, and that changes how people respond to you. Listeners care less about mistakes than you think. What they notice is confidence and continuity. Now let's talk about self-judgment. Self-judgment is harsher than any external criticism. You may never be corrected by others, but your internal voice corrects you constantly. That sounded stupid. Why did I say that? I should have said it differently. This inner commentary destroys confidence. So the next affirmation is essential. I speak to myself with patience when learning English. Patience is not laziness, it is intelligence. Language learning is not linear. There will be good days and bad days. If you punish yourself on bad days, your brain associates English with pain. Affirmations teach self-compassion, and self-compassion increases resilience. Resilient learners speak more, they recover faster, they progress further. Another key affirmation in this segment is, I am learning English, not performing English. This removes pressure. You are not on stage. You are not being graded. You are learning. Learning requires experimentation. Experimentation requires freedom. When you internalize this, your body relaxes, your shoulders drop, your jaw unclenches, your voice steadies. Confidence is often physical before it is verbal. Finally, there is one more affirmation that ties everything together. I accept discomfort as part of growth. This affirmation reframes anxiety. Discomfort does not mean you are failing, it means you are stretching. Every new level of fluency feels uncomfortable at first. The learners who succeed do not avoid discomfort, they normalize it. They stop interpreting nervousness as danger, they treat it as a signal of progress. When you adopt this belief, fear loses its power. Fear becomes information, not instruction, and that is the turning point. By the end of this segment, understand this. You are not afraid of English. You are afraid of judgment. Affirmations remove that fear by changing how you interpret experience. And once fear weakens, your real ability finally shows. In the next segment, we will move deeper, from fear reduction to inner authority. Segment 3, Building Inner Authority. Speak in English without shrinking. There is a hidden problem many English learners never talk about. It is not fear, it is not grammar, it is not vocabulary, it is shrinking. Shrinking your voice, shrinking your opinions, shrinking your presence. You may speak English but quietly. You may answer but briefly. You may participate but cautiously. Not because you have nothing to say, but because deep down you do not feel entitled to take space in English. This is not accidental. Many learners unconsciously believe English belongs to others. Native speakers, educated people, people who sound right. So they borrow English instead of owning it. They speak as guests. They apologize for their presence. They soften every sentence. And that destroys confidence faster than any mistake ever could. Confidence is not about sounding perfect. It is about standing behind your words. This segment is about building inner authority. The calm sense that you have the right to speak, finish your thoughts, and be heard. Let's begin with the first affirmation of this segment. My voice deserves to be heard in English. This affirmation often creates resistance, not because it is false, but because it touches something deep. Many learners feel comfortable listening in English. They feel comfortable agreeing. But when it comes time to express an opinion, hesitation appears. Why? Because opinions feel risky. Facts can be memorized, opinions come from identity, and when you speak in English, it can feel like you're exposing your identity in a language that is not fully yours. This affirmation challenges that fear. Your experiences are real. Your thoughts are valid. Your perspective matters. English is simply the medium. When you repeat this affirmation consistently, something important changes. You stop minimizing your contributions. You stop starting sentences with maybe or I'm not sure, but you stop softening every statement. Your voice becomes steadier, not louder, not aggressive, just grounded. That grounding is authority. Now let's move to the second affirmation. I do not need to sound like a native speaker to sound confident. This belief causes more damage than most learners realize. The idea of native-like fluency creates endless comparison. You compare accents, you compare speed, you compare expressions, and no matter how much you improve, the target keeps moving. Confidence cannot survive constant comparison. This affirmation separates confidence from imitation. Confidence is not about copying, it is about clarity and calm. Some of the most confident English speakers in the world are non-native. Their accents are noticeable, their grammar is sometimes imperfect, but their presence is strong. Why? Because they speak without apology. They trust themselves. This affirmation helps you stop chasing an imaginary standard. You stop trying to disappear into someone else's voice. You allow your English to sound like you, and that authenticity is powerful. The third affirmation builds directly on this. I communicate clearly enough to be understood. This is a reality check. Communication is not an exam. It is a shared process. People understand meaning even when grammar is imperfect. They ask questions. They clarify. But when you assume you are unclear, you panic. You over-explain. You repeat yourself unnecessarily. You doubt your words mid-sentence. This affirmation teaches your brain to trust the listener. You do not carry the entire burden of understanding alone. Communication is cooperative. When you internalize this belief, your sentences become more natural. You pause without fear. You rephrase calmly. You stay relaxed. Relaxation is clarity. Now let's address a very common habit. Ending statements like questions. Many English learners unconsciously raise their tone at the end of sentences, not because they are unsure of the content, but because they are unsure of their right to state it. So here is the next affirmation. I speak with certainty even when learning. Certainty does not mean arrogance, it means self-trust. You can be learning and still be certain about what you are expressing. This affirmation encourages downward tone. Steady pacing, complete sentences, it changes how others perceive you. People respond to confidence more than correctness. The next affirmation is subtle but transformative. I finish my thoughts when I speak English. Many learners interrupt themselves. They stop halfway. They restart. They abandon ideas. This trains the brain to associate English with interruption. This affirmation trains completion. Completion builds confidence. When you finish your thoughts, you feel whole. You feel expressed, and that feeling encourages you to speak again. Authority grows through completion. Now let's talk about something uncomfortable but important. Being interrupted. Many learners are interrupted more often, not because of their English level, but because of hesitation. Hesitation signals uncertainty. So here is the next affirmation. I hold my space when speaking English. This is not about dominance, it is about presence. You do not rush. You do not collapse when interrupted. You calmly continue. Holding space tells your brain, I belong here. Belonging is essential for confidence. Now let's address internal authority, not just external behavior. I trust my ideas even when my English is simple. Simple English is powerful. Clear ideas expressed simply are more effective than complex ideas trapped behind fear. This affirmation removes the shame of simplicity. You stop forcing advanced vocabulary. You choose clarity, and clarity sounds confident. Finally, we arrive at the core affirmation of this segment. I am not inferior because English is my second language. This belief sits quietly in many learners. They may never say it, but they feel it. This affirmation dismantles that hierarchy. Knowing more than one language is not a disadvantage, it is cognitive strength. You are not behind, you are expanded. When you truly believe this, your posture changes, your eye contact improves, your voice steadies. Confidence is not learned from rules, it is reclaimed from beliefs that were never true. By the end of this segment, understand this. You do not need to earn the right to speak English. You already have it. Inner authority does not come from fluency. Fluency grows from inner authority. In the next segment, we will move into consistency and daily reinforcement, the habits that turn confidence into something automatic. Segment 4. Consistency over confidence. How daily practice creates natural. There is a dangerous lie many English learners believe. It sounds reasonable, it sounds logical, and it keeps people stuck for years. The lie is this: I will practice more seriously when I feel confident. Confidence never arrives that way. Confidence does not appear first and invite action. Action creates confidence. Most learners wait for a feeling that only comes after consistent practice. So they prepare endlessly. They watch videos, they read articles, they save notes, but they delay speaking. And the longer they wait, the heavier English feels. This segment is about breaking that cycle, not with motivation, not with pressure, but with consistency-based affirmations that quietly retrain your brain. Let's begin with the first affirmation of this segment. Every sentence I speak makes me more fluent. This affirmation removes performance pressure. Most learners judge their English at the level of conversations. They ask, was that a good conversation? Did I sound fluent? That is too big. Fluency is not built conversation by conversation. It is built sentence by sentence. Every sentence strengthens word recall, sentence structure, timing, confidence. Even short sentences count. Even broken sentences count. Your brain does not measure quality the way you do. It measures repetition. When you repeat this affirmation, You stop dismissing small efforts. You stop thinking, that didn't count. That wasn't good enough. Everything counts. And when everything counts, consistency becomes possible. The next affirmation builds on this idea. I grow fluent through daily use, not rare perfection. Many learners have intense practice days followed by long gaps. They wait for time, they wait for energy, they wait for motivation. This affirmation teaches a different rhythm. Small daily exposure beats rare intense sessions. 5 minutes every day does more than 2 hours once a week. Why? Because language lives in memory, and memory strengthens through frequent contact. When you believe this, you stop chasing perfect practice conditions. You practice even when tired, even when busy, even when unsure. Consistency lowers resistance. Now let's talk about another harmful belief. I need to practice only when I feel ready. Readiness is emotional. Practice is behavioral. If you wait for readiness, practice becomes optional. So here is the next affirmation. I practice English even when I don't feel confident. This is a turning point belief. It separates emotion from action. You no longer ask, how do I feel today? You ask, what can I do today? Confidence becomes irrelevant. You practice anyway. And the strange thing is, confidence often appears after practice, not before. This affirmation teaches discipline without punishment. It is not harsh. It is neutral. You practice because it is normal. Now let's address something many learners hide. Inconsistency creates guilt. You miss a few days, you feel bad, you avoid English. This spiral kills progress. So here is a critical affirmation. Missing a day does not erase my progress. Progress is cumulative, not fragile. One missed day does not reset your brain. One bad conversation does not undo learning. This affirmation protects consistency by removing guilt. Guilt creates avoidance. Compassion creates return. When you believe this, you come back faster. Now let's move to speaking speed. Many learners rush because they want to sound fluent. Rushing causes mistakes. Mistakes cause panic. So here is the next affirmation. I allow myself to speak slowly and clearly. Speed is not fluency. Control is. Native speakers slow down when explaining something important. Confidence includes pacing. This affirmation removes pressure to rush. When you slow down, your pronunciation improves, your thinking improves, your confidence improves. Listeners prefer clarity over speed. Now let's talk about habit identity. I am someone who uses English every day. This is an identity level affirmation. You stop thinking of English as a task. It becomes part of your life, not something you study, something you use. You think in English briefly, you speak to yourself, you describe actions. Usage creates familiarity. Familiarity creates confidence. Now let's address environments. Many learners believe they need special environments to practice. Quiet rooms, perfect time, ideal partners. This belief limits practice. So here is the next affirmation. I can practice English anywhere, in small ways. You can speak one sentence aloud. Summarize your thoughts. Describe what you see. Practice does not need an audience. This belief unlocks daily opportunities. Now let's talk about patience again. but deeper. I trust long-term progress over short-term results. Confidence grows slowly and invisibly. You will not notice daily improvement, but one day you will notice ease. This affirmation keeps you committed during quiet growth periods. Language growth is silent before it is visible. Finally, we arrive at the core affirmation of this segment. I show up consistently, and confidence follows. This belief reverses the old pattern. You no longer wait. You lead, you show up, you speak, you practice, and confidence obeys. By the end of this segment, understand this clearly. Fluency is not built by confidence. Confidence is built by showing up repeatedly. You do not need motivation. You need identity-level consistency. In the next segment, we will tackle one of the deepest wounds in language learning, accent shame and comparison, and replace it with pride and calm self-acceptance. Segment 5, Breaking Accent. Shame and comparison, reclaiming confidence in your own voice. There is one silent force that destroys English confidence more than grammar mistakes, more than lack of vocabulary, more than fear of speaking. That force is shame, specifically accent shame. Many English learners never say it out loud, but they feel it deeply. I sound different. My accent gives me away. People will know I'm not from here. They will judge me before they understand me. So they try to hide. They speak less. They lower their volume. They shorten sentences. They avoid conversations, not because they lack ability, why, but because they fear exposure. Accent shame is not about sound. It is about identity. An accent reveals history, it reveals origin, it reveals effort. And when learners believe that only one kind of English is acceptable, they begin comparing themselves relentlessly. Comparison becomes constant. How do I sound compared to them? Why is their pronunciation better? Why can't I speak like that? Comparison drains confidence faster than mistakes ever could. This segment exists to dismantle that pattern completely. Let's begin with the most important affirmation of this segment. My accent is proof of my intelligence, not a weakness. This affirmation challenges a deep cultural lie. An accent does not mean you are bad at English. It means you learned it later. It means your brain holds more than one language. It means you adapted. That is not deficiency. That is achievement. Research shows bilingual and multilingual brains are more flexible, more creative, more adaptable. Yet many learners feel ashamed of the very thing that proves their effort. This affirmation flips that meaning. When you repeat it consistently, something powerful happens. You stop trying to erase your accent. You stop tightening your mouth unnaturally. You stop forcing sounds that feel uncomfortable. Your speech becomes smoother because you stop fighting yourself. Confidence improves, not because your accent disappears, but because tension does. Tension distorts sound more than accent ever does. Now let's move to the second affirmation. I do not need to sound native to sound confident. This belief separates two things that are often incorrectly linked. Native-like sound and confidence are not the same. Many native speakers speak without confidence. Many non-native speakers speak with strong authority. Confidence is carried in pacing, tone stability, eye contact, sentence completion, not accent. When you chase native-like sound, you create endless dissatisfaction. There will always be another sound to perfect, another nuance to chase. This affirmation frees you from that trap. You shift your focus from imitation to communication, and communication is where fluency lives. Now let's talk about comparison, the quiet killer. I stopped measuring my English against other people. Comparison feels automatic, but it is learned. You are trained to compare grades, compare performance, compare progress. Language learning does not work that way. You do not share the same background, the same exposure, the same opportunities. Comparing yourself to others ignores context. This affirmation teaches your brain to redirect attention inward. You compare only one thing, your current self to your past self. That comparison builds confidence instead of destroying it. Next comes a very important belief. I focus on being understood, not being perfect. Accent shame often comes from fear of misunderstanding, but misunderstanding happens to everyone, even native speakers. Communication includes clarification, repetition, adjustment. When you stop fearing misunderstanding, you speak more freely. You stop anticipating failure, and anticipation of failure is what creates anxiety. This affirmation removes that anticipation. Now let's address something subtle. Many learners believe that correcting their accent aggressively will make them confident. But over-monitoring speech creates tension. So here is the next affirmation. I allow my English to sound natural for me. Natural does not mean careless. It means comfortable. Comfort improves rhythm. Rhythm improves clarity. Clarity improves confidence. You can still improve pronunciation, but without self-rejection. Improvement and acceptance can coexist. Now let's talk about public situations. I do not apologize for my English. Apologies before speaking weaken authority. Sorry, my English is bad. Sorry if this sounds wrong. These phrases signal insecurity before content. Most listeners do not judge your English until you invite them to. This affirmation removes unnecessary apology. You speak, you communicate, you adjust if needed. No apology required. Next, we address a very common fear, people laughing. I release the fear of being judged for my accent. Judgment is imagined more often than real. Most people are focused on themselves. They are not analyzing your pronunciation. And even if judgment happens, it does not define you. This affirmation trains emotional resilience. You stop scanning faces for reactions. You stay present in your message. Presence dissolves fear. Now let's move into pride. I respect myself for learning another language. Self-respect is the foundation of confidence. If you do not respect your effort, no external validation will help. This affirmation rebuilds that respect. You acknowledge the hours spent learning, the courage to speak, the persistence to continue. Respect creates stability. Finally, we arrive at the the core affirmation of this segment. I speak English as myself, not as someone else. This is where real confidence begins. You stop copying personalities. You stop performing accents. You stop chasing approval. You speak as you, your tone, your rhythm, your personality. English becomes a tool, not a test. By the end of this segment, understand this deeply. Your accent is not holding you back. Your shame about it is. When shame disappears, confidence rises naturally. In the next segment, we will move to the final transformation: identity level confidence and self-trust, where English stops feeling foreign and starts feeling like part of you. Segment 6: Identity level confidence. When English stops feeling foreign, there is a moment every successful English learner experiences. It is quiet, it is subtle, and most people don't even notice it when it happens. It is the moment when English stops feeling like a performance and starts feeling like a part of you. Before this moment, English feels external. Something you use, something you practice, something you turn on and off. After this moment, English feels internal. It blends into your thinking. It shows up naturally. It no longer demands permission. This segment is about reaching that moment, because confidence that comes from identity is different from confidence that comes from preparation. Preparation-based confidence is fragile. Identity-based confidence is stable. If your confidence depends on perfect conditions, it disappears when conditions change. But if English becomes part of who you are, confidence remains even on bad days. Let's begin with the first affirmation of this segment. English is becoming part of who I am. This affirmation may feel strange at first. Many learners keep English at a distance. They say, Bob, I speak English, but not English is part of me. Why? Because identity feels permanent, and learners are afraid to claim something before they feel ready. But identity does not wait for perfection. You don't become a speaker because you are fluent. You become fluent because you see yourself as a speaker. This affirmation begins that shift. When you repeat it, your brain starts integrating English into your self-image. You stop switching personalities when you speak. You stop becoming smaller or quieter. You remain yourself, just in another language. That integration reduces anxiety more than any grammar rule ever could. Now let's move to the second affirmation. I trust myself when I speak English. Trust is the final layer of confidence. Without trust, you second-guess everything. You replay conversations. You criticize your word choices. Trust ends that cycle. This affirmation tells your brain, I can handle this. Not, I will be perfect. Not, I won't make mistakes. I can handle it. That belief creates calm. When you trust yourself, you don't panic if you forget a word. You paraphrase, you adjust. Trust creates flexibility. Flexibility is fluency. Now let's address a hidden fear. Many learners worry that if they relax, their English will get worse. They believe tension keeps them sharp. This is false. So here is the next affirmation. I stay calm because calm improves my English. Anxiety narrows thinking. Calm expands it. When you are calm, you access vocabulary faster. You form sentences more smoothly. You listen better. This affirmation teaches your nervous system to cooperate instead of resist. Confidence is physiological before it is linguistic. Now let's move deeper. I am not switching identities when I speak English. This belief is critical. Many learners feel like they become a different person in English, less expressive, less humorous, less intelligent. This creates emotional distance. You don't feel at home in the language. This affirmation closes that gap. You bring your humor, your values, your opinions. English becomes a tool, not a mask. Now let's address mental translation. I allow English to come without translating every word. Translation creates delay. Delay creates anxiety. This affirmation trains your brain to tolerate imperfection while thinking directly in English. You don't force it, you allow it. Over time, English thoughts emerge naturally. That is identity integration. Next affirmation. I respond in English without over-preparing. Over-preparation creates rigidity. When conversations don't follow your mental script, panic appears. This affirmation trains spontaneity. Spontaneity feels risky at first, but it builds confidence faster than rehearsed responses ever will. Now let's talk about emotional ownership. I accept English as part of my daily life. This affirmation removes separation. English is no longer something you study. It is something you live. You describe thoughts. You narrate actions. You reflect internally. Daily exposure strengthens identity. Now let's address fear of losing your first language or identity. Some learners feel English threatens their original self. So here is the next affirmation. Learning English adds to me, it does not replace me. You are not losing anything, you are expanding. This belief removes resistance. When resistance disappears, learning accelerates. Now let's talk about authority again, but internal. I do not need validation to feel confident in English. External validation is unstable. Some days you receive it, some days you don't. This affirmation builds self-sourced confidence. You approve yourself. That approval stabilizes your voice. Now let's address time, pressure. I allow my English confidence to grow gradually. Growth is not instant. This affirmation removes impatience. Impatience creates frustration. Frustration creates avoidance. Patience creates consistency. Now we arrive at the most powerful affirmation of this segment. I am already becoming the confident English speaker I imagine. This affirmation collapses distance. You stop seeing confidence as a future version of yourself. It becomes present and developing. That mindset keeps you engaged. By the end of this segment, understand this. Confidence becomes permanent when it becomes identity. You no longer try to be confident. You simply speak. In the final segment, we will bring everything together. How to use these affirmations daily, how to reinforce them, and how to make English confidence automatic. Segment 7. Making English confidence automatic. How to live these affirmations. Daily confidence is not a switch you turn on. It is a habit you install. By now you understand something most English learners never realize. Confidence is not about sounding perfect. It is not about speaking fast. It is not about knowing every rule. Confidence is about how you relate to yourself while speaking English. Everything you learned in the previous segments points to one truth. English confidence becomes automatic when your mind stops treating English as a threat. This final segment is about locking that transformation in, not through motivation, not through pressure, but through daily realistic reinforcement. Because what you repeat, you become. Let's start with the most important realization. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your habits. If English confidence is only something you think about occasionally, it fades. If it becomes something you reinforce daily, it stabilizes. That is why affirmations work best when they are integrated, not performed. You're not trying to convince yourself of something false. You're reminding yourself of something true that fear made you forget. Now let's talk about how to use these affirmations correctly. First, understand this clearly. Affirmations are not meant to be rushed. If you repeat them quickly, your brain treats them as noise. If you repeat them slowly, your brain treats them as instruction. Choose a calm moment. Morning works best. Your brain is more receptive before the day adds stress. Speak affirmations out loud when possible. Your nervous system responds to sound more strongly than thought. Even if you feel awkward at first, that discomfort is a sign of rewiring. Now, here is the most effective structure. Do not use all affirmations at once. That overwhelms the mind. Choose 2 affirmations per week, one that addresses fear, one that builds identity. For example, I am allowed to speak imperfect English. I trust myself when I speak English. Repeat them daily for 7 days. Not aggressively, calmly. Let them sink in, then rotate. This slow rotation creates depth instead of surface motivation. Now let's talk about timing, because timing matters. Affirmations are most powerful before fear appears. Say them before a meeting, before a phone call, before practice. You're not calming yourself after panic. You're preventing panic from starting. That is proactive confidence. Now let's address something crucial. Affirmations do not remove fear completely. They change how you respond to fear. Fear may still show up, but it no longer controls your actions. You feel nervous, and you speak anyway. There's real confidence. Now let's talk about integration into daily life. English confidence grows fastest when English becomes present outside formal practice. Narrate your actions. Describe what you see. Reflect on your day in English, not to be perfect, to be familiar. Familiarity breeds calm. Calm breeds confidence. Now let's address self-talk. Pay attention to how you speak to yourself after speaking English. This is where many learners lose progress. If you criticize yourself harshly after every conversation, your brain associates English with pain. So here is a final affirmation to carry with you. I speak to myself with respect after speaking English. Even if the conversation was messy, even if mistakes happen, respect creates safety. Safety allows repetition. Repetition creates fluency. Now let's talk about long-term transformation. There will be days when your English feels weak, days when words don't come, days when confidence dips. This does not mean you are regressing. It means you are human. Progress is not linear. Affirmations help you stay steady during fluctuations. They keep you from quitting during normal difficulty. Now let's address something important. You are not late. You are not slow. You are not behind. Language learning does not follow a universal timeline. Some people speak early with mistakes. Some people stay silent for years. Neither path is wrong. What matters is movement. And affirmations create movement by reducing fear. Now let's bring all 10 affirmations together as a unified mindset. You are allowed to speak imperfect English. Mistakes mean progress, not failure. Your voice deserves to be heard. You communicate clearly enough to be understood. Every sentence moves you forward. Consistency matters more than confidence. Your accent is proof of effort, not weakness. Comparison is irrelevant to your journey. English is becoming part of who you are. You trust yourself when you speak. When these beliefs become normal, English stops feeling heavy. You stop bracing yourself. You stop apologizing. You stop shrinking. You speak, not perfectly, not flawlessly, but confidently. And confidence changes everything. People respond differently. Opportunities expand. Your identity shifts. Not because your English suddenly became perfect, but because you stopped treating yourself as inadequate. That is the real transformation. So, as this series ends, remember this: confidence is not something you wait for, it is something you practice. One belief at a time, one sentence at a time, one moment of courage at a time. And the more you speak on a sound, the more English becomes yours. Not someday, now.